The north is cold and full of whispers.
Before we dive in, check the link in description if you want exclusive timelines, members-only videos you won't find on YouTube, all on our Patreon. Robert Baratheon is dying and he knows it. The boar got him good. Tusk through the belly. The kind of wound that looks survivable until the fever comes. Until the flesh turns black and the maesters start whispering about mortification and last rites. He's propped up on pillows in his bedchamber. The massive frame that once swung a warhammer and crushed Rhaegar Targaryen is now just meat rotting from the inside out. The wine goblet on the table beside him is empty. Too late for wine. Too late for anything except truth. Ned Stark sits at his bedside. They've been here for hours. Robert talking, Ned listening, the way it's always been. The boy isn't mine. Ned doesn't move, doesn't speak. Lets the words sit in the air between them. Joffrey, he isn't mine, Ned. Never was. Robert, don't. Robert's hand comes up, shaking. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Don't tell me I'm dying and don't know what I'm saying. I've known for years. Longer than I want to admit. The fever's got nothing to do with it. Look at him. Golden hair, green eyes, Lannister to the bone. Every bastard I ever sired came out black-haired. Every single one. You know why? Because Baratheons breed true. We always have, for 100 generations. Black hair, blue eyes, strong. Robert coughs. Blood flecks his lips. He doesn't wipe it away. I kept telling myself it didn't matter. He was raised as mine. The realm needed an heir. Cersei swore he was mine, and I wanted to believe her. Easier than admitting I'd been cuckolded by my own wife. Easier than admitting the boy I called son was some Lannister bastard she probably made with Jaime. Ned feels something cold settle in his chest. You can't know that. I know. I've always known. I just didn't want to see it. His hand fumbles. Ned catches the pitcher of water before it falls, pours, holds the cup to Robert's lips. Robert drinks, pushes it away. I need you to do something for me. Anything. Don't say that until you hear it. Ned waits. Robert's eyes, bloodshot, rheumy, dying, fix on him with something that looks like desperation. I'm naming you my heir. The words don't make sense. Ned hears them, understands the individual sounds, but the meaning won't connect. Robert, you have sons, you have brothers, you can't. I'm the king. I won by right of conquest. Same as Aegon. Aegon built this throne from the swords of his enemies and chose who'd sit it after him. I broke the Targaryen line at the Trident. The throne is mine by conquest. I can give it to whoever I damn well please. Stannis is your heir by law. Stannis is my heir by nothing. I'm changing the law right now. The king's will supersede succession custom. I'm invoking the same right Aegon had when he made the throne in the first place. He'd be dead in a year. Killed by Tywin or eaten alive by the small council, or poisoned by someone who wants the throne more than he does. Robert coughs again. Harder, I need you, Ned. You're the only man I've ever known who doesn't want power. That's why you have to take it. I can't rule the 7 kingdoms. I'm a northerner. The South will never accept me. I don't care if they accept you. I care that you'll do what's right, that you'll protect. Robert stops, his face twists. If you don't take this crown, my daughters die. You know that, don't you? Ned goes still. Cersei will make sure of it. The moment I'm dead, she'll crown Joffrey, and she'll have Myrcella and Tommen killed. To eliminate rivals. Or Tywin will. They're not Robert's children. They're threats to whatever Lannister succession she's planning. And they'll die. You can't know. I know Cersei. I know what she's capable of. I've known for years and I've been too drunk and too weak to stop her. Robert grabs Ned's wrist. His grip is still strong. Dying strength. If you walk out of this room without accepting this crown, those girls die. That's not a guess, that's a certainty. You're the only man in this city she might hesitate to kill. Because you're honorable. Because everyone knows you keep your word. If you're king, she'll think twice before moving against the children. Ned looks at his friend, at the man who laughed at everything and loved nothing except the ghost of a girl who died 16 years ago, at the king who drank himself into irrelevance and left a kingdom drowning in debt and corruption, at the man asking him to save children who aren't his. What about the succession? If I accept, Stannis will follow the law until it breaks him. Let him. Robert's breathing is labored now, ragged, on having this written down, witnessed, sealed. You'll have the decree, the small council will witness it. It'll be legal as anything ever is when there's a crown involved. Robert, don't make me beg, Ned. I've never begged for anything in my life. Don't make me start now. Ned closes his eyes, opens them. What do you need me to do? Robert's face shows something that might be relief. Get me the small council. We're doing this now before I'm too weak to hold a quill. Ned stands, walks to the door, opens it. The guard outside, one of Robert's personal men, straightens. Summon the small council, all of them. The king has a decree to make. The guard runs. Ned returns to Robert's bedside. His friend, his king, is crying, silent tears running down a face that's already gone gray. I'm sorry, Robert says, for all of it, for dragging you south, for getting myself killed, for leaving you with this mess. Stop. I mean it. You deserved better than this, better than me. You were my friend. I was a drunk and a fool, and I wasted everything I won. Robert wipes his face with the back of his hand. Promise me you'll be better. Promise me you'll actually rule instead of just sitting there. I promise. The small council arrives within minutes. Grand Maester Pycelle, Varys, Petyr Baelish, Renly Baratheon. They file into the bedchamber looking confused and wary. Ned can see them calculating, trying to figure out what Robert wants, what advantage they can gain from it. Robert doesn't give them time to think. Parchment, quill, write this down exactly as I say it. Pulls out parchment, dips a quill. Robert dictates. His voice is weak but clear, every word deliberate, every phrase legally precise in a way that shocks Ned. Robert was never precise about anything except killing. I, Robert of House Baratheon, first of his name, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar and the First Men, being of sound mind and in the presence of witnesses, do hereby make this decree. The only sound in the room except Robert's labored breathing. The children born to my wife Cersei Lannister and claimed as mine, Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen, are not of my blood. They are the product of incest between Cersei Lannister and her brother Jaime Lannister. I declare them baseborn, illegitimate, without claim to my throne or my name. Renly makes a sound, shock, horror. Ned can't tell which. I hereby disinherit my brothers Stannis and Renly Baratheon. They are not named as my successors. This is done by my right as king, the same right of conquest by which I took this throne from the Targaryen line. I hold this crown by force of arms, not by inheritance. Therefore I may dispose of it as I see fit. But Ned can feel them both calculating, shifting positions, preparing for whatever comes next. I name as my heir and successor Eddard of House Stark, Lord of Winterfell, Warden of the North. He is to be recognized as king upon my death. This decree is legal and binding. It supersedes all prior succession law. It is sealed with my ring and witnessed by my small council. Pycelle stops writing. His hand is shaking. Read it back, Robert says. Pycelle reads. Every word, every terrible kingdom-destroying word. Witness it. All of you. Sign your names. They sign, one by one, Pycelle first, shaking so badly he can barely write. Varys next, steady hand, neutral face. Little finger, small smile, calculating eyes. Renly last, pale, shocked, already seeing his own claim dissolve. Robert takes the parchment, folds it carefully, reaches for his hand, the signet ring, the crowned stag, the symbol of House Baratheon and the Iron Throne. He slides it off, holds it out to Ned. Take it. Ned doesn't move. Take it, Ned. It's yours now, whether you want it or not. Ned takes the ring. It's warm from Robert's hand, too large for his finger. He has to make a fist to keep it from sliding off. Robert leans back against the pillows, exhausted, dying. Get out, all of you except Ned. The small council files out. Renly looks back once, face unreadable, then he's gone. Ned sits back down, the ring heavy in his palm. I'm going to die before morning, Robert says. We both know it. Nothing can. Robert closes his eyes. When I'm gone, you move fast. Crown yourself before Cersei can crown Joffrey. Get the city watch on your side. Hold the Red Keep. The rest you'll figure out as you go. Robert, one more thing. Robert's voice is fading. The girls, Myrcella and Tommen, they didn't ask to be born into this. If you can save them without compromising the throne, do it. They deserve better than their mother. I will. And Ned, don't trust anyone, not the maesters, not the council, not anyone who is here tonight. They're all playing their own games. You're the only piece on the board who isn't. Ned watches his friend slip toward death and feels the weight of the crown settling on him like chains. Dawn comes gray and cold. Robert Baratheon dies just after sunrise. The maesters pronounce him. The servants weep. Ned Stark sits alone in the bedchamber with a decree in his hand and a crown he never wanted. He looks at the signet ring on his finger, at the crowned stag that doesn't belong to him, at the symbol of a throne built on conquest and blood. He puts the ring on, closes his fist, and walks out to become a king. Dawn light crawls through the high windows of the great hall like something reluctant. The throne room is already full, not with ceremony, with dread. Cersei Lannister stands near the base of the Iron Throne steps. She wears black. Mourning clothes she put on hours ago when the servant came running with news of Robert's death. Her hair is perfect, her face is composed, her hands hidden in her sleeves are clenched so tight her nails draw blood. She knows something is wrong. The court assembles around her. Lords and ladies who were sleeping off last night's wine now stand in yesterday's finery, trying to look appropriately mournful while calculating who to bow to. The gold cloaks line the walls. Commander Janos Slint stands near the throne dais, his face red and sweating despite the morning chill. Cersei planned this moment, spent years planning it. The gold cloaks would move on her signal. Joffrey would be brought in, crowned immediately by a septon already bought and paid for. Ned Stark would be arrested for treason, some invented charge, doesn't matter which, and executed before nightfall. Clean, fast, done. Then the doors at the far end of the hall open. Ned Stark walks in, not as a prisoner, not flanked by Lannister guards. He walks alone, boots echoing on stone, wearing the same gray and white he always wears, looking like a man attending a funeral, which he is, his own. He doesn't speak, doesn't pause, just walks the length of the hall while every eye follows him, walks up the steps of the Iron Throne, and sits. The court goes silent, not the respectful silence of ceremony, the stunned silence of watching someone do something impossible. Cersei's face doesn't change, can't change, years of practice holding expressions in place when her father was watching, but her eyes are screaming. Ned sits forward. The Iron Throne is exactly as uncomfortable as the songs say. Blades dig through his jerkin. The armrests are wrong. The seat tilts at an angle that forces the sitter to lean forward like a man perpetually judging. He reaches into his jerkin, pulls out the parchment, unfolds it with careful, deliberate movements that fill the silence like a countdown. "I hold in my hands," Ned says, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall, the final decree of Robert Baratheon, first of his name, witnessed by the members of his small council, sealed with his signet ring, spoken in sound mind before his death at dawn. Cersei's mouth opens, closes. Ned reads, every word, every line, the confession of incest, the disinheritance of Joffrey, Myrcella, Tommen, the invocation of the right of conquest, the naming of Eddard Stark as heir. The silence that follows is not awe. It's the silence of 100 lords and ladies trying to decide if they just heard a declaration of war. Cersei is the first to move. She doesn't run, doesn't rage. She walks toward the throne with the measured steps of a queen who has decided this is theater and she will play her part perfectly. She stops at the base of the steps, looks up at Ned, smiles. The smile doesn't reach her eyes. "Lord Stark." Her voice is honey poured over razors. "You sit in my husband's seat holding a piece of paper and call it a throne. How northern of you. How very, very honorable. The decree is legal, Your Grace. Witnessed, sealed, legal." She laughs. Not loud. A small, controlled sound that makes half the court lean forward to hear it. Robert was dying, drowning in wine and poppy milk. The maester will testify he couldn't see straight, much less think straight. And you, noble Ned Stark, who never wanted anything in his life, chose that moment to put a paper in front of him and have him sign away his own children's birthright. I didn't put anything in front of him. Robert commanded it. Robert commanded many things when drunk. He commanded the moon pulled from the sky once. Shall we try that next? Your Grace. No. Cersei's voice cuts like a whip. You will not, Your Grace, me while sitting in that chair with my husband's body still warm. You're a traitor, a thief, a man who has seized power through forgery and manipulation while pretending honor made you do it. She turns to the court, projects, every word carefully placed. This man entered my husband's bedchamber while the king lay dying, alone. No witnesses except those he summoned afterward. And now he produces a document that conveniently disinherits the king's lawful heirs and names himself successor. Does this sound like Robert? The man who laughed at everything, who cared nothing for laws or papers or anything except wine and hunting. Does anyone truly believe Robert Baratheon on his deathbed suddenly developed an interest in legal succession? Murmurs. Uncertain. But murmurs. Ned stands. The movement is deliberate, controlled. Grand Maester Pycelle, step forward. His face is the color of parchment. You witnessed the decree. You heard Robert speak. Was he of sound mind? Pycelle's mouth works. He looks at Cersei, looks at Ned, looks at the court watching him. The king was in great pain. The wine and poppy were, was he of sound mind? Ned repeats. Pycelle swallows. He knew what he was saying. Thank you. Cersei's face hardens. Commander Slynt. Janos Slynt steps forward. He's a thick man with a thick neck and a face that looks like it's been punched repeatedly by an ugly stick. His hand rests on his sword hilt. Yes, your grace. Arrest Lord Stark. The charge is high treason. We'll sort out the details after he's in a cell. Slynt looks at Ned, looks at Cersei, looks at the gold cloaks lining the walls. Doesn't move. Ned speaks quietly, doesn't shout, doesn't need to. Commander Slynt, before you attempt to arrest me, you should know that among the papers left by Lord Jon Arryn, papers I've been reviewing these past weeks, are detailed accounts of your service as commander of the City Watch, gold changing hands, brothel ownership through proxy names, contracts awarded to your brother-in-law for city grain supplies at 3 times the fair price, murder of witnesses who saw gold cloaks participating in crimes they were meant to prevent. Slynt goes pale. Those are lies. They're numbers written in Jon Arryn's own hand, confirmed by 2 different investigators. I have the documents here. Ned reaches into his jerkin, doesn't pull anything out, doesn't need to. I'm offering you a choice, Commander. You can attempt to arrest me, fail, and spend your remaining days explaining your finances to a tribunal, or you can do your duty, keep the peace, and serve the lawful king as you're sworn to do. Ned looks past him to the gold cloaks. The City Watch serves the crown, not the Lannisters, not any great house. The crown, I am the crown now, by Robert's decree. Will you serve? The gold cloaks look at Slynt. Slate nods, jerky, reluctant. The gold cloaks don't arrest anyone. Cersei watches this. Watches her plan collapse like a bridge with a rotted support. She doesn't scream. Doesn't cry. Her mind is already 3 moves ahead. Bring my children, she says to no one in particular. To everyone, we're leaving. Your Grace, Ned starts. Do not speak to me. Her voice is ice. You've taken my husband's crown. You've called my children bastards in front of the entire court. You will not also take my dignity. She turns to leave. Stops. Looks back. You should have killed Joffrey the moment you read that paper, Lord Stark. That's what my father would have done. That's what a real king would have done. But you won't, because you're too honorable, and your honor is going to get you killed. She walks out. The court doesn't know whether to follow her or stay. Most stay. The ones who follow her are noted, memorized. They'll be dealt with later. Ned sits back down on the Iron Throne. A blade catches his shoulder blade. Not deep, just enough to remind him what this chair is. Lord Barristan Selmy. The old knight steps forward, white cloak, weathered face, eyes that have seen 3 kings and loved none of them. Your Grace, I name you Lord Commander of the King's Guard. Your Grace, I already hold that position. Then I confirm it and I ask you to rebuild what's been allowed to rot. The King's Guard will serve the realm again. Not any single family. Will you serve? Barristan looks at Ned for a long moment, studies him, sees something, or decides to see something. I will serve. Thank you. Ned looks at Janos Slynt. Commander, the gold cloaks will now swear their oaths to the crown. All of them. Every man. I want names. I want records. And I want anyone who's been on the Lannister payroll identified and removed. Do you understand? Slynt understands. Yes, Your Grace. Good, then get out of my sight and start doing your job. The court begins to disperse, slowly, watching Ned, calculating. Some bow before leaving, some don't. The ones who don't are also noted. When the hall is nearly empty, Varys approaches the throne. Soft footsteps. hands folded. Your Grace, a word? Speak. The queen will flee to Casterly Rock. She'll take her children, her household guard, and every piece of gold she can carry. She'll reach her father within 3 weeks. Lord Tywin will not accept this decree. The Westerlands will march. And yet you let her leave. I gave her a choice: leave quietly and her children are not harmed, or stay and fight and lose everything. She chose to leave. That was the wise choice. Varys's eyes are calculating. You believe her children deserve mercy. Her children are children. Not monsters yet. Maybe never, if they're away from her and Jaime. A dangerous mercy, Your Grace. But I won't kill children to make ruling easier. That's not what Robert made me king to do. Varys nods slowly. Then the war begins in earnest. Tywin Lannister has 60,000 swords. You have 2,000 Northerners and a piece of paper. I have Robert's decree. I have the law. I have the city watch, and I have men who know the difference between right and wrong. Forgive me, Your Grace, but wars are not won with righteousness. Then I'll learn how to win them another way. Not the oily smile, something else. Almost respect. I believe you might, Your Grace. I believe you might. He leaves. Ned sits alone on the Iron Throne. The morning sun is higher now. The hall is empty except for guards at the doors. He looks down at his hands, at Robert's ring, still too large, at the decree, which he's folded and placed on the armrest of the throne. He has won this morning. Cersei is gone. The gold cloaks are sworn. The court knows who wears the crown. But in his bones, Ned knows what Cersei knows, what Varys knows, what every lord calculating in their chambers knows. This was the easy part. He won the throne room. He has the paper and the oaths and the guards. Cersei has the road to Casterly Rock. She has her father. She has 60,000 men who bend to no law except Lannister gold. Ned has won a scene. The war hasn't started yet, but it's coming fast as a raven can fly. And when it arrives, honor won't stop it. Steel will. Ned stands, walks down the steps of the Iron Throne. His shoulder is bleeding slightly from where the blade caught him. He doesn't wipe it away. Let it bleed. Let the throne take its first taste of northern blood. It won't be the last. He walks out of the throne room to begin the impossible task of ruling a kingdom that doesn't want him, with an army he doesn't have, against enemies who will never stop coming. The lion has left the city, but the lion's roar is still coming, and when it arrives, it will be louder than anything Westeros has heard since the dragons died. 2 days after Robert dies, Ned Stark refuses to enter the Great Sept of Baelor. The High Septon sent 3 messages, each more insistent than the last. The coronation must be held in the Sept, before the 7, with the proper anointing oils. The gods demand it. The realm expects it. Tradition requires it. Ned's reply is 6 words long. The coronation will be secular. The High Septon does not reply. He doesn't need to. His silence is an answer louder than any raven. The great hall of the Red Keep is being prepared. Servants work through the night scrubbing stone floors that haven't been properly cleaned in years. Torches are positioned, banners hung. Not many banners. The crowned stag of House Baratheon, the grey direwolf of House Stark. No dragons, no lions. It looks less like a coronation hall and more like a castle preparing for a siege. Ned stands in his chambers looking at the crown they've brought him. Aegon the Conqueror's crown. Black iron and rubies. The crown that sat on the heads of mad kings and cruel kings and kings who burned their enemies alive. No, he tells the servant holding it. Your Grace, this is the crown of... I know what it is. I'm not wearing it. I'm not pretending I did. The servant looks lost. Then what crown will your Grace wear? Ned thinks for a moment. Send for the master smith. Tell him I need something made. Simple. Iron from the north. And if someone can find obsidian, dragon glass, from Dragonstone, set a piece in the front. Nothing large, just enough to show it's there. Dragonstone, your Grace? But Lord Stannis sent a chest of dragon glass to Castle Black 2 years ago when the Night's Watch requested it. Have the chest brought here. Take 1 piece. Send the rest north as Stannis intended. The servant bows and leaves, confused but obedient. Renly Baratheon appears in the doorway. He's wearing green silk, always green. The color of summer and growth and things that die when winter comes. You're really doing this, Renly says. Did you think I wouldn't? I thought you'd come to your senses. Realize this is madness. Let Stannis have his war. Let me have mine. Go home to Winterfell and live. Is that what you'd do? Renly smiles. Not his charming smile, something sharper underneath. "No, I'd fight, but I know how to fight. You're a northerner trying to rule southerners who hate you. That's not fighting, that's suicide." Then why are you still here? The question sits between them. Renly should have left, should have ridden for Storm's End the moment Ned sat the throne, should be gathering bannermen preparing his own claim. Instead he's here, wearing green silk, watching Ned prepare for a coronation that might be the shortest reign in history. Because Stannis will come, Renly says finally, my brother doesn't forgive, doesn't compromise, doesn't understand that sometimes the law needs to bend or it breaks. He thinks the decree is illegal, which means he thinks you're a usurper, which means he'll march here with every ship and soldier he can gather. And when he does, you'll need someone who knows him, someone who can predict him, someone who shares his blood but not his insanity. You want to be Hand. I want to be useful, there's a difference. Ned studies him. Renly is young, 21, handsome enough that half the ladies at court write terrible poetry about him, smart enough to hide how smart he is, ambitious enough to be dangerous. But he's here, and he's right about Stannis. I don't trust you, Ned says. I don't trust you either. You're too honorable. Honor makes men predictable. Predictable men get killed, but you'll stay. I'll stay. For now. Because watching you try to rule might be the most entertaining thing that's happened to this city since Aerys burned people alive. Renly's smile returns. Besides, someone needs to teach you how to lie to people who matter. I don't lie. I know. That's the problem. Renly leaves. Ned looks at his reflection in the polished shield hanging on the wall, gray in his hair, lines around his eyes, a face that belongs in the north, in the cold, in the snow. Not here. Not in this southern heat wearing a crown that wasn't meant for him. He picks up the letter he's been writing to Winterfell, to Robb, his eldest son who should be learning to rule the north, not preparing to march south with an army. The letter is 3 drafts old, each one trying to find the right words, trying to explain the unexplainable. Finally, he writes simply, Robb, your uncle's decree has named me king. I did not want this. I do not want this. But I have accepted it because the alternative is war between children who don't know their bastards and uncles who will destroy the realm to prove who's right. Hold the north. I'm sending a separate raven with orders to begin gathering our forces. If war comes, I will need you. But move carefully. Trust me, your father. He seals it with the new seal, the crowned stag with the direwolf's head superimposed. An image that makes the smith nervous. An image that makes sense to no one. The raven flies north. Ned watches it disappear into gray sky and knows he's lying to his son. He's not coming home. Not anytime soon. Maybe not ever. The coronation begins at noon. The great hall is half empty. The lords who stayed in King's Landing after Cersei fled are here because leaving would be noticed. They stand in clusters, whispering behind hands, watching Ned walk toward the Iron Throne with the expression of men watching an execution. Lord Jon Royce of the Vale, an old friend of Jon Arryn's, one of the few great lords who stayed, stands before the throne, gray-bearded, stern, wearing bronze armor that marks him as a man of the first men, like Ned. No septons, no anointing oils, no hymns to the seven, just stone and torchlight and the echo of boots on cold floor. Ned kneels. Royce reads the oath. His voice carries without effort, "Do you, Eddard of House Stark, swear to protect the realm and all its people, to rule with justice and mercy, to defend the weak and punish the wicked, to serve until death? I swear it. By what authority do you claim this throne? By the decree of Robert Baratheon, witnessed and sealed, by the right of conquest he held and chose to transfer, by the will of the realm." The last part is a lie. Everyone in the hall knows it's a lie. The realm's will has nothing to do with this. But it's the lie they need to hear. Royce places the crown on Ned's head. It's simple, iron, dark gray, a single piece of black dragon glass set into the front, catching torchlight. It weighs less than Aegon's crown, feels heavier. Rise, Eddard of House Stark, first of your name, king of the Andals, the Rhoynar and the First Men, lord of the 7 kingdoms, protector of the realm. No one cheers. The silence in the hall is total, not respectful, not awed, just silent. The silence of people watching something wrong unfold and not knowing how to stop it. In the distance, through the thick stone walls, a sound carries. Bells, the great sept of Baelor's bells. But they're not ringing celebration. They're ringing the slow, mournful toll used for deaths and disasters. The High Septon is holding his own ceremony, a sermon, a condemnation. Every southerner in the city who prays to the Seven will hear it, will know their gods do not recognize this king. Renly, standing near the front, catches Ned's eye, mouths two words, "Told you." Ned walks to the Iron Throne, sits. Every blade digs into him, his back, his legs, the armrests cut through his sleeves. It's designed wrong, built wrong. Meant to remind the sitter that ruling is pain. He understands what Robert meant when he said the throne was uncomfortable. It's not just physical, it's metaphysical. The wrongness radiates from the metal. 1,000 swords taken from defeated enemies and melted by dragon fire into a chair that actively resists whoever sits in it. Ned looks out at the assembled court, the handful of lords who stayed, the gold cloaks lining the walls, Varys in the shadows. Pycelle looking like he wants to flee, Renly smirking. Sir Barristan Selmy, Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, steps forward. "Meals, Your Grace, the Kingsguard stands ready. How many of you are left?" "4, Your Grace. We will rebuild." "Good. Do it with men who understand what the oath means. Not politicians in white cloaks." "Yes, Your Grace." Barristan stands. His face shows nothing, but his eyes look at Ned the way a man looks at something fragile that's about to break. The ceremony ends. There's no feast, no celebration. Ned releases the court. They file out quickly, gratefully, like prisoners given pardon. Ned sits alone on the Iron Throne. The blades dig deeper. Blood seeps through his jerkin where one particularly sharp edge found skin. He doesn't move, doesn't stand, just sits there, bleeding slightly, wearing a crown of northern iron in a southern castle, holding a throne that doesn't want him, ruling a kingdom that will never accept him. He looks at his hands, northern hands, scarred from sparring and riding and work, not the soft hands of southern lords who pay others to do their violence. He thinks about Winterfell, about Catelyn, about his children, about the godswood and the crypts and the cold, clean air that doesn't smell like rotting fish and human waste. He thinks about the North. He is not going home. The realization settles like stone in his chest. He accepted this crown to save Cersei's daughters, to prevent another war, to do what Robert asked because Robert was dying and desperate. But now he understands. Accepting it was the easy part. Wearing it is the trap. Because if he leaves, if he goes home, names a hand to rule in his place, returns to Winterfell, the South will erupt, Stannis will come, the Lannisters will come. Every lord with ambition will see an empty throne and reach for it. He has to stay, has to rule, has to bleed on this chair made of swords and pretend it's working. Outside, the great sept's bells are still tolling. Slow, mournful, wrong. The High Septon is telling the city, this is not a coronation, this is a funeral. And he's right. Eddard Stark died the moment he put on this crown. What sits on the Iron Throne now is something else. Something that looks like Ned, sounds like Ned, bleeds like Ned. But isn't Ned anymore, is something the realm needs him to be. Even if it kills him, he stands finally, walks down the steps. Blood leaves a thin trail on the stone where he sat. The Iron Throne has taken its first taste. It will want more. The small council chamber smells like old wood and older lies. Ned Stark sits at the head of the table, not in the hand seat, in the king's seat, which no one has used in years, with 3 days' worth of Littlefinger's financial ledgers spread in front of him. Numbers, columns, contracts signed in elegant handwriting that hide theft so sophisticated it took Ned 2 full nights to see the pattern. He sees it now. Lord Petyr Baelish stands near the window. He's wearing green today. Always green. The color of money and poison ivy. His hands are folded behind his back. His expression is the smile that made Robert trust him and Jon Arryn investigate him and Ned despise him. Your Grace. Littlefinger's voice is honey. If you found an error in the accounts, I'm happy to explain the Crown's revenue strategies. Some entries appear irregular to those unfamiliar with embezzlement, Ned says. The word sits in the room like a body. Littlefinger's smile doesn't move. That's a rather crude interpretation of complex financial instruments. You borrowed 300,000 gold dragons from the Iron Bank in the Crown's name. The Crown never received it. You used it to purchase grain contracts at artificially low prices. Then you sold the same grain back to the Crown at market rates. The difference went into accounts held by shell merchants in Pentos. Those merchants' names trace back to brothels you own. Littlefinger's smile finally flickers. Not gone, just thinner. The crown profited, he says. The grain arrived. The arrangements were. Thee stole from Robert, from the realm, from every person who depends on the crown's coin to defend them. You hid it behind numbers that look legitimate to anyone who doesn't read carefully. I read carefully. Barristan Selmy, standing near the door in his white cloak, watches this with the expression of a man who has seen 3 kings fall and is about to watch a 4th break something that can't be fixed. Littlefinger spreads his hands, a gesture of reasonableness. Your Grace, I have made the crown wealthier than it's been in 20 years. Robert spent like a man convinced tomorrow would never come. Someone had to fund his appetites. If I profited modestly while doing so, modestly. Ned picks up one of the ledgers, flips to a page he's marked, 600,000 gold dragons moved through your accounts in 5 years. That's not modest. That's a fleet. That's an army. That's the price of buying a kingdom. Or saving one, Littlefinger says quietly. The change in his voice is subtle. The charm is gone. What's left is something sharper, something calculating. The crown's debt is 6 million dragons, Your Grace. Without my work, my profitable work, it would be 8 million. I kept Robert's throne solvent while he drank and whored his way through the treasury. You're welcome. You're under arrest. Littlefinger doesn't move. On what charge? Embezzlement, fraud, treason by theft of crown funds. Pick one. And who will manage the crown's accounts after I'm gone? You? Littlefinger's smile returns. Colder now, you're an honorable man, Lord Stark. But honor doesn't balance ledgers. Honor doesn't negotiate with the Iron Bank. Honor doesn't keep 50,000 people fed when 3 Westerlands grain merchants decide they're not shipping to King's Landing anymore. The last sentence lands like a knife between ribs. Ned looks at him. 3 merchants, as of this morning. Didn't you know? Littlefinger's tone is all false concern. Tywin Lannister's proxies. They've recalled their shipments, citing unsettled accounts. The crown owes House Lannister 3 million dragons. Tywin's decided to collect it in grain instead of gold. By the end of the month, King's Landing will be eating through its reserves. By winter, it will be starving. Ned knows when a man is telling the truth to hurt him. Barristan, take him. Barristan moves forward. Littlefinger raises his hands. Not surrender, just theater. He's already calculating his next move. As Barristan leads him to the door, Littlefinger looks back. You'll need someone who knows how to lie to bankers, Your Grace. I wish you luck finding him. The door closes. Ned sits back down, looks at the ledgers, at the numbers that represent years of corruption so elegant it took a dead hand and a living king to uncover it. He's won. Littlefinger is arrested. The evidence is documented. It feels like losing. The door opens again. Grand Maester Pycelle shuffles in. Old, trembling, smelling faintly of wine and fear. Your Grace requested my presence. Ned doesn't look up. Sit. Pycelle sits. His hands fold in his lap. His face is the portrait of elderly confusion, a performance he's perfected over decades. I know you're a Lannister agent, Ned says. Pycelle's hands stop moving. I know you've been advising Cersei for years. I know you told Tywin which lord stayed in King's Landing and which fled. Jon Arryn kept records. Very detailed records. He suspected you long before he died. Pycelle opens his mouth, closes it. The elderly confusion drops like a mask he forgot he was wearing. Your Grace, I can't dismiss you. The Citadel appoints Grand Maesters. Only the Citadel can remove them. But I can make your position ceremonial. No small council access. No private meetings with visiting lords. Your ravens are monitored. Your quarters are watched. You retain your title and your duties as a healer. Everything else is gone. Pycelle's face goes white. That is tantamount to demotion. Yes. Ned looks at him. You served Robert. You served Aerys before him. You serve whoever wears the crown and whoever pays better. I don't need loyalty from you, Pycelle. I just need you neutralized. Pycelle stands. He's shaking. Not with age now, with rage barely contained. You are making enemies faster than you can count them, Lord Stark. I know. Ned is alone for exactly 10 minutes before Varys appears. He doesn't knock. He never knocks. He simply materializes in the chair Pycelle vacated, hands folded, face serene. Your Grace, a busy morning. You told me about Pycelle's records. I did. Why? Varys tilts his head. Because you needed to know, and because I prefer kings who root out corruption rather than feed it. Littlefinger made the crown rich while bleeding it dry. You are making it honest while, forgive me, bankrupting it. I find that an interesting choice. You're staying on the small council. I am honored. You're staying because I need intelligence, because Tywin is moving, and Stannis is planning, and I can't fight wars I can't see coming. But understand this, Varys. If I find you've lied to me, you'll join Littlefinger in the cells. I don't care how useful you are. Varys's smile doesn't change. Your grace is refreshingly direct. Most kings threaten more subtly. I'm not most kings. No, Varys says quietly. You are not. He stands, glides toward the door, pauses. A gift, your grace. Proof of my good faith. Cersei's planning documents, the ones she prepared for the coup she intended before you sat the throne. They're hidden in a compartment beneath the floorboards in her former chambers, third stone from the eastern wall. You'll find them illuminating. He leaves before Ned can ask how he knows. Ned sits alone, looks at the empty council table. At the 3 chairs that are now vacant, Littlefinger arrested, Pycelle neutered, Renly's seat unclaimed. He needs new counselors, men he can trust, men who understand that governing is not the same as winning. He writes 3 letters. The first is to Winterfell, to Maester Luwin, who taught him to read, to count, to think. The letter is simple. Come south. The crown needs you. I need you. The second is to White Harbor, to Lord Wyman Manderly, the fattest and richest man in the north. The letter is equally simple. The crown requires a master of coin. You understand trade. You understand debt. Are you willing? The third is to Dragonstone. This one takes longer to write. Ned rewrites it twice. Tries to find the words that will reach a man who thinks in laws and precedents and iron certainties. Lord Stannis, Robert named me his heir. You are Robert's brother. The law, the succession law, would place you on the throne, not me. I know this. You know this. The realm knows this. I also know Robert's reasoning. He believed the decree was legal. He believed his right of conquest gave him the authority to choose. Whether he was right or wrong is a question scholars and maesters will argue for the next 100 years. But here is what I can offer you. The position of hand of the king, not a subordination. As partnership, I rule in name, you rule in practice. The small council answers to you. The law is enforced by you. The realm's administration runs through your hands. I am not a politician. I am not a lawyer. I am a soldier and a lord who wanted to go home and was given a crown instead. You are the opposite, a man who understands law and order and governance in ways I never will. Help me enforce the law together. Come to King's Landing. We will rebuild what Robert broke. The alternative is war between brothers who both believe they're right. The realm cannot survive that. Eddard Stark, king of the Andals, the Rhoynar and the First Men, he seals it, watches the raven fly east, knows the answer before it arrives. Stannis will refuse. Stannis will see the offer as a trap, as an attempt to buy him off, as an insult to his claim. But Ned had to offer, had to try. Because the only thing worse than Stannis refusing is never having asked. The 4th crisis arrives before the ink dries. A servant enters, pale, shaking, holding a message from the harbor master, Your Grace. 3 grain shipments from the Westerlands. They've turned back. The merchants are citing. They're saying the crown owes debts. They're saying Tywin Lannister has instructed them to withhold supplies until accounts are settled. Ned takes the message, reads it, sets it down carefully. Littlefinger's final words echo in his head. By winter, it will be starving. He looks at Barristan, who has returned to his post by the door. Convene the small council. What's left of it? Your Grace, we have no master of coin, no Grand Maester in session, no. Then convene who we have. Varys, the city watch commanders, the lords who stayed, we need solutions, now. Barristan nods. Leaves. Ned sits alone in the council chamber. 3 days into his reign, and he has arrested the man who kept the crown solvent, crippled the man who kept the crown informed, and opened a war with Tywin Lannister that will be fought not with swords, but with food. He has won the morning. He has executed a perfect audit, and he has no idea how to feed a city. The ledgers sit in front of him, numbers, contracts, evidence of crimes that needed exposing. He thinks about what Robert would have done. Robert would have ignored the numbers, borrowed more, laughed and drank and let someone else worry about it tomorrow. He thinks about what Tywin would do. Tywin would have killed Littlefinger quietly, kept Pycelle useful, used Varys as a weapon. One ugly, Ned did it honestly. Now he has to figure out if honesty can win before the city starts starving. He stands, walks to the window, looks out at King's Landing sprawling below. 500,000 people who don't know their grain shipments just stopped, who don't know the crown is 6 million gold dragons in debt, who don't know their new king is trying to govern a realm he doesn't understand with a council he just destroyed. The sun is setting. The city looks almost beautiful in the failing light. It won't stay beautiful when the food runs out. Ned closes his eyes, opens them, turns back to the council table. He has work to do. The rot went all the way down. He's cut it out. Now he has to figure out how to build something that can stand without it. A raven arrives that evening. From the black cells where Littlefinger is being held, a request to speak with the king. Ned burns it. Littlefinger will face trial when there's time. Until then, he can think about what his cleverness bought him. A cell. And silence. And the knowledge that all his schemes ended the moment an honest man started reading the numbers. The raven from Dragonstone arrives on the 4th day of Ned's reign. Davos Seaworth stands in the small council chamber holding it, the Onion Knight. Stannis' smuggler turned advisor. His face has the weathered look of a man who has delivered bad news before and knows he's about to do it again. Your Grace. He holds out the sealed parchment. From Lord Stannis. Ned breaks the seal. Reads. 2 sentences. The decree is illegal. I am the king. No greeting. No signature. Just the statement and Stannis' personal seal pressed so hard into the wax it nearly broke through the paper. Ned sets it down carefully. Looks at Davos. Does he say anything else? He said if your grace wished to speak further you should come to Dragonstone. He wants me to come to him? Of course he does. Davos shifts his weight. He's uncomfortable. A man caught between loyalty to Stannis and the knowledge that Stannis is wrong in precisely the way Stannis is always wrong. Technically correct and politically useless. Your Grace, if I may. Lord Stannis believes the law is absolute. He sees your coronation as theft, not because he hates you, because the law says he is the heir and you are not. To him, this is not personal. It is mathematical. Really looks at him, sees a man wearing a crown he doesn't want, and trying to rule a kingdom that's already fracturing. I believe the law matters, Your Grace, but I also believe survival matters more, and Westeros will not survive 4 men fighting over a chair made of swords. Ned nods. Thank you for bringing the message. Davos bows. Leaves. The door closes. Barristan Selmy, standing near the window, speaks quietly. Stannis will not negotiate. I know. He will gather his strength, build his fleet, wait for the realm to tear itself apart. Then he will come. I know. And he will be right, Your Grace. By every law of succession, he is the rightful king. Ned looks at him, but not by Robert's decree. No, not by that. The silence between them is the entire problem compressed into 10 seconds. The second raven arrives that afternoon. This one is not terse. This one is a proclamation written on silk parchment in script so elegant it looks like art. Varys reads it aloud to the small council with the tone of a man reciting a particularly entertaining play. Renly of House Baratheon, first of his name, Lord of Storm's End and Highgarden, protector of the Reach, declares himself the rightful heir to the Iron Throne by virtue of being Robert's brother by the will of the assembled lords of the realm, and by the sacred union of House Baratheon and House Tyrell, sealed this day by marriage to Lady Margaery Tyrell, Jewel of Highgarden. Varys pauses, looks up. It goes on for another page about roses and stags and the dawn of a golden age. Shall I continue? No. Ned's voice is flat. How many swords does he command? 80,000, Your Grace, perhaps more. The Reach is the largest kingdom, and Renly has married into it. Mace Tyrell has bet everything on his daughter becoming queen. Barristan makes a sound that isn't quite a laugh. Renly has always been good at theater. He's made himself a king without fighting a single battle. He'll have to fight eventually, Ned says. Yes, but not yet. Right now he's marching his 80,000 north at a pace that suggests he's more interested in being seen than arriving. He wants the realm to bend the knee before he reaches King's Landing. It's brilliant. Actually, terrifying, but brilliant. Ned looks at the map spread across the council table. 3 weeks old and already obsolete. The markers for Lannister forces, Baratheon forces, the empty north. Where's Robb, Moat Cailin, Your Grace? Last Raven came 2 days ago, 18,000 men moving south. 8 weeks out. 8 weeks. Ned does the arithmetic in his head. Renly will be here in 3, maybe 4 if he maintains his theatrical pace. The third declaration arrives not as a raven, but as a rider. A Lannister herald wearing Tywin's colors. He delivers his message standing in the throne room in front of what remains of Ned's court. His voice carries, Tywin Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock, Warden of the West, Shield of Lannisport, speaks on behalf of King Joffrey Baratheon, first of his name, rightful King of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men. The herald pauses, lets the title sit in the room, lets everyone hear it. The decree produced by Ned Stark is void. It was signed by a dying king under duress, a man whose judgment was compromised by wine, poppy milk, and the manipulations of a northern usurper. Maesters testify that King Robert was not of sound mind in his final hours. The faith itself questions the decree's validity. Ned doesn't move, doesn't speak. Lets the herald finish. King Joffrey Baratheon is the lawful son of King Robert. His legitimacy is attested by the royal birth records. His claim is supported by law, tradition, and the will of the gods. Lord Tywin Lannister, as hand to the rightful king, demands that Ned Stark surrender the Iron Throne, swear fealty to King Joffrey, and return to Winterfell in peace. The herald stops, waits. Ned looks at him. Is that all? Lord Tywin also notes that the crown owes House Lannister 3 million gold dragons. He requests immediate payment or negotiation of terms. Tell Lord Tywin the crown recognizes no debt to traitors who support a bastard born of incest. The herald's face goes pale. Your Grace, you have your answer. Leave. The herald leaves fast. Barristan waits until the doors close. That was declaring war, Your Grace. Tywin declared war when he recalled the grain shipments. I'm just being honest about it. Honesty is expensive in wartime. So is lying. That night, Ned convenes what's left of his war council. It's smaller than it should be. Barristan, Varys, 3 city watch commanders, the northern captains who came south with the first 2,000, a handful of southern lords who stayed and are now realizing they bet on the wrong horse. The map is brutal. Barristan lays it out without mercy. Lannister forces, 20,000 soldiers in the Westerlands, well-trained, well-fed, led by Tywin Lannister, who hasn't lost a war in 30 years. He moves a marker. Renly's host, 80,000, the Reach and the Stormlands combined. Most are green, but 80,000 green soldiers will still drown 2,000 wolves. Another marker, Stannis, 5,000 on Dragonstone, his fleet. Small force but disciplined. He's not marching yet, he's waiting. He looks at Ned and us. 2,000 Northmen, the best infantry in Westeros, outnumbered 40-1, one of the northern captains. Galbart Glover leans forward. We can hold the city, the walls are good. We've got the gold cloaks, 6 months of supplies if we ration. And then what? Barristan's voice is gentle. You starve, or you fight 3 armies at once. Ned looks at the map, at the markers that represent men who will die because Robert Baratheon decided to make him king. Robb is 8 weeks out, 18,000 more men. 20,000 against 100,000 is still a slaughter, Your Grace. Then we don't fight them all at once. We hold King's Landing. We fortify, we let them come to us and bleed on the walls. Varys speaks from his corner. A siege favors the besiegers, Your Grace. They have the countryside, you have a city that needs feeding. Then we break the siege before it forms. We hit them on the roads, we make them pay for every mile they march. With 2,000 men, with the best 2,000 men in Westeros. Barristan looks at him, sees something he recognizes. Not confidence, desperation, the look of a man who knows he's losing and refuses to lie down. What do you need, Your Grace? Time. I need Robb to arrive before Renly does. I need Stannis and Tywin to hate each other more than they hate me. And I need the realm to see the truth about Joffrey before any of them reach these walls. The trial. Varys makes a sound that might be approval. Put the incest on public record. Delegitimize Joffrey's claim. Turn Tywin's legal argument into ash. Can it work? Galbart asks. It has to. Ned says. The plan, if it can be called a plan, is simple in the way all desperate plans are simple. Hold the city, delay the converging armies, divide them with truth and politics, survive until Robb arrives, win enough time to turn this from a war into a negotiation. It requires everything to go right. 3 days later, everything goes wrong. The Gold Road, the main supply route from the Westerlands to King's Landing, a wide, well-maintained road that has carried trade and troops for 300 years. Tywin's cavalry takes it without a fight. The report comes from a merchant who fled the occupation. He tells his story to the City Watch, who bring it to Ned. Lannister riders, your grace. 500 heavy horse. They've occupied the crossroads at Wendwater Bridge. They're stopping every caravan, taxing them, taking half the goods, saying it's payment on the crown's debt. That's not taxation, that's theft. They're calling it legal seizure, your grace. They've got a maester with them reading from ledgers, making it official. Ned looks at Barristan. Can we dislodge them? Not easily. They hold the high ground, and if we send a force, they'll know we can't defend the city properly. Then we send a small force, fast, hit them and withdraw before they can respond. Your grace, I can't let Tywin choke us without answering. If I do nothing, every lord in the realm sees weakness. Barristan nods slowly. Northern cavalry, 200 riders, in and out. Make it happen. The northern riders leave at dawn. They're back 3 days later, half of them. Galbart Glover delivers the report with blood still drying on his armor. We hit them at the crossroads, caught them drilling, cut through their pickets, got to their main force. And they were ready, your grace. Someone warned them they had 500 horse, not 3, and they knew we were coming. Ned's jaw tightens. Casualties, 94 dead, 30 wounded. We killed maybe 70 of theirs before we pulled back. Galbart's voice is hollow. It was a draw, your grace, bloody, vicious, and pointless. Not pointless, you showed them we'll fight. We showed them we'll die, your grace. That's not the same. Galbart leaves. Ned sits alone with the map, with the markers that now include a red pin at Wendwater Bridge. First blood, first dead. First of thousands. Barristan enters quietly, stands near the window. Tywin wanted you to send that force. He leaked the information about the size of his occupation, made you think you could win. Then he doubled his numbers and waited. I know. He's testing you, seeing if you fight like Robert or think like a commander. And you fought like a man who's desperate and honorable. That's dangerous. For you. Ned looks at the map, at the 3 armies converging, at the city in the center that he's supposed to defend with courage and honor, and 2,000 men. What would you do, Barristan? The old knight is silent for a long moment. I would survive, your grace. However I could, even if it cost my honor, because dead men don't rebuild kingdoms. He leaves. Ned stands alone in the small council chamber as the sun sets. The map glows orange in the failing light. The markers look like bloodstains. Stannis to the east, Renly to the south, Tywin to the west, 3 kings, 3 armies, 3 men who believe they're right, and Ned Stark in the middle holding a crown he never wanted, fighting a war he can't win, waiting for his son to arrive with an army that won't be enough. The War of the 4 Kings has begun, and Ned knows, in his bones, in his blood, in the part of him that has fought and bled and buried friends, that this war will not be won with honor. It will be won by whoever is willing to do what Ned Stark refuses to do. Lie, cheat, kill without mercy, become the thing he hates, or die trying not to. The people of King's Landing come out to watch the Northern Army arrive, not to welcome them, to see them, to count them, to decide if these are the men who will save the city or bury it. Robb Stark rides at the head of the column under a banner no one has seen before. The crowned direwolf, not the stag, not the wolf alone, both. The symbol is new enough that the silk still smells like dye. He's 19, looks younger in the southern sun. Auburn hair, gray eyes, the Tully coloring from his mother, the Stark severity from his father. He sits his horse like a man who grew up in the saddle and wears mail like a second skin. Behind him, 18,000 men in gray and white and brown. Northern infantry, northern cavalry, northern pike formations that move like iron forests. They march in silence. No songs, no cheering, just the sound of 20,000 boots on stone and the creak of leather and the occasional bark of a sergeant keeping formation. The small folk watch from doorways and windows. They don't wave, don't shout, just watch. A woman near the Gate of the Gods says it loud enough for her neighbors to hear, "The wolves have come south." It's not a compliment. Robb hears it, doesn't react, keeps riding, through Fishmonger's Square, through the Street of Steel, up the hill toward the Red Keep where his father is waiting. The northern soldiers fill the streets behind him like a river of gray. They don't smile at the city. The city doesn't smile back. Ned Stark stands on the steps of the Red Keep when Robb dismounts. For a moment, neither of them moves. Father and son, lord and prince, king and heir, the weight of all those words sitting between them like stones. Then Robb climbs the steps, kneels, "Your Grace." The formality cuts. Ned reaches down, pulls him to his feet, embraces him. "Get up. You're my son, not my bannerman." Robb's voice is quiet against his father's shoulder. "I'm both now." Sees the boy he sent to Winterfell, and the man who marched 2,000 miles to reach him. "How many did you lose on the march?" 43, mostly to fever in the swamps near the Twins. We burned them at dawn with their swords. The northern way. Good. They walk into the Red Keep, away from the courtyard, away from the watching lords and guards, into a small chamber off the main hall that Ned has been using because he still refuses to sleep in the royal apartments. The door closes. Robb speaks first. "What happens when this is over, father?" Ned doesn't have an answer. "I don't know. The North is calling you the Iron Wolf. Do you know that they're saying you conquered the South the way Aegon did? With fire and will." "I didn't conquer anything. Robert gave me a crown I didn't ask for and enemies I didn't choose." "I know, but they don't. They think you're building an empire, that Winterfell is going to rule from King's Landing now." Robb's voice is careful, trying not to accuse. "Are we? No. When this is over, when the wars are done, I'm going home. We're all going home. And the throne? I don't know." The words hang between them. The truth neither of them wants to speak. There might not be an after. There might only be this. Robb changes subjects. "What about Sansa?" Ned's face tightens. "I sent for her the moment I sat the throne. She was at the Water Gardens in Dorne. Cersei sent her there before she fled, probably to keep her away from Joffrey. She's traveling back with a Dornish escort, 3 weeks out. And when she arrives, she stays here. Safe. The betrothal to Joffrey is annulled. She wanted to be queen. She's 13. She wanted what 13-year-olds want when they hear songs about queens. Now she'll learn what queens actually are." Robb nods. Doesn't push. Moves to the window. Looks down at the city spreading below them. 500,000 people in a space meant for half that. Smoke rising from 10,000 hearths. The stink of fish and shit and humanity packed too tight. It's so different from home. Yes. The men don't like it. They're sleeping in barracks that are too hot. Eating food that tastes wrong. Praying in a god's wood that isn't theirs. Robb turns back. "How long do we have to stay?" "As long as it takes." That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. The Northern Army spreads through King's Landing like oil on water. They don't mix. They occupy. The barracks near the Gate of the Gods are commandeered for Northern infantry. 4,000 men sleeping in a space built for 2,000. They spill out into courtyards and alleys. Set up camp in empty lots. The City Watch complains. The Northerners ignore them. In the Red Keep's Godswood, where the ancient weirwood tree stands with its carved face, Northern soldiers add fresh carvings, rougher faces, angry faces, the kind of thing that makes visiting Southern lords uncomfortable and reminds everyone that the old gods are here now. In the taverns along the Street of Silk, Northern soldiers drink Northern ale, brought south in barrels because they can't stomach the Southern swill, and get into fights with City Watch men who resent foreigners walking their streets like conquerors. After 3 days, there are 4 dead. 2 Northerners, 2 City Watch, all of them drunk, all of them stabbed in alley brawls that started over nothing and ended in blood. Ned has both sides arrested, has them tried, has the sentences read publicly in the courtyard of the Red Keep. Drunk, disorderly, murder, 6 months in the cells, Northern and Southern alike. I don't care which gods you pray to. You're all under my law. The Northerners grumble, the City Watch grumbles louder. The small folk watch and call them all wolves anyway. A week after Robb's arrival, Ned receives a report that stops him cold. 3 Northern scouts, men sent south into the Reach to monitor Renly's movements, have been captured, stripped, beaten, hanged from a tree with a sign around their necks. The North remembers, the South forgets nothing. A 4th scout escapes, rides for 5 days without stopping, collapses in the courtyard of the Red Keep with a message he delivers to Robb directly. Renly's army, it's not 80,000. 100,000, Maybe more. I saw the camps, the banners, every lord in the Reach, every knight in the Stormlands. It's the largest army I've ever seen. The scout passes out. The healers take him. Robb brings the news to Ned in the small council chamber. Barristan is already there. Varys, Galbart Glover. The map is spread across the table like a battlefield. 100,000. Robb's voice is steady. He's done the math. We have 20,000. Stannis has 5. Tywin has 20. Even if we fought together. We're not fighting together, Ned says. Then we're dying separately. Barristan moves a marker on the map. Places it south of King's Landing, closer than the last report. Renly's moving slowly, he wants to be seen. Wants the realm to bend the knee before he has to fight, but even at a crawl, he'll be at the walls in 3 weeks. Can we hold? Against 100,000, Barristan looks at Ned. No. Varys speaks from his corner, unless Renly doesn't arrive at all. Everyone looks at him. He's marching through the Reach, summer country, green as far as the eye can see. His army is enormous, yes, but it's also hungry. 80,000 men, pardon me, 100,000 men need feeding. If their supply lines were to encounter difficulties, you want me to raid their supply trains. Robb's voice is flat. With what? Every soldier I have is needed here. Not soldiers, my lord. Scouts, hunters, men who can move through enemy territory without being seen. The North has such men, does it not? Ned looks at Robb. Robb looks back. We do. Then send them, not to fight, to sabotage. Burn supply wagons, poison wells, spread panic, make Renly's march a nightmare. Barristan frowns. That's not honorable warfare. No, Varys says pleasantly. It's survival. The logistics crisis hits a week later. 18,000 soldiers need to eat. King's Landing's markets were already strained before they arrived. Now they're breaking. The price of grain doubles. Then triples. Small folk who could barely afford bread last month can't afford it at all this month. They start gathering in the squares. Not rioting, not yet. Just gathering, angry, hungry, watching northern soldiers eat their city's food. Robb brings the problem to Ned with numbers that don't lie. We have 6 weeks of food at current consumption. 4 if we feed the city too, we're eating King's Landing alive. Then we go to the countryside. Buy what we need. With what coin? The treasury is empty. Littlefinger stole it. The Iron Bank wants repayment. We're broke. Ned stands, paces, thinks. Then we don't buy, we borrow. On the Crown's authority, I sign promissory notes. We send men into the Crown lands. Tell the lords they'll be repaid when the wars are done. And if they refuse, then we take it anyway and call it taxation. Robb stares at him. That's what Tywin's doing on the Gold Road. That's exactly what you called theft. I know. So we're stealing from our own people to feed an army they didn't ask for. Yes, the word sits between them. Ugly. True. Robb nods slowly. I'll send the riders. The northern requisition parties go out in groups of 50. They carry Ned's signed orders. They visit every village and farm within 30 miles. They negotiate. They promise. And when promises don't work, they take. Grain, livestock, vegetables, anything that can feed 20,000 men. The small folk give it up. They don't have a choice. But they remember. They always remember. Within 2 weeks, the resentment in the countryside is a living thing. Northern soldiers report being spat on in villages, cursed in the name of the Seven, told to go home before the South swallows them whole. Robb rides out with one of the parties. Sees a farmer, old man, bent back, hands like leather, hand over his entire winter stores with tears running down his face. This was for my grandchildren, the old man says. Robb has no answer. Ser Barristan Selmy finds Robb that night in the barracks. The boy is sitting alone, staring at a map he's not really seeing. You did what was necessary, my lord. I stole from an old man who'll starve this winter. Yes, and 20,000 soldiers will eat. That's command. Robb looks up. Is that what you told yourself when you served the Mad King? That you were doing what was necessary. Barristan doesn't flinch. Every day, for years, until one day I realized necessary and right are not the same thing. By then it was too late. So what do? You lead, you make the hard choices, you carry the weight, and you try, every single day, to be better than the choices you're forced to make. Barristan sits down across from him. Your father is a good man trying to be a good king. That's why this is so hard. Bad men don't suffer the way he's suffering. And me, you're your father's son, which means you'll suffer too. But you'll survive it, because you're also your mother's son, and Catelyn Tully doesn't raise children who break. They sit in silence for a moment. Then Barristan pulls out a map. Show me your deployments for the South Wall. Your instincts were good at Wendwater Bridge. But good isn't enough. I'm going to teach you how to read terrain like a man who's fought in 100 battles. Robb looks at the map, at the old knight who has served 3 kings and is offering to teach a 4th. Why are you helping me? Because your father is going to die if someone doesn't keep him alive, and you're the only person in this city who loves him enough to do what needs doing when he won't. They work until dawn, Barristan correcting, Robb learning, the map filling with marks and notes and the slow accumulation of military wisdom that can't be taught in books. Outside, the city sleeps uneasily. The northern army fills its streets like winter filling the bones of an old house. Uncomfortable, cold, wrong, the small folk lie awake listening to northern songs in languages they don't speak, to northern prayers to gods they don't worship, to the sound of 18,000 foreigners who came south to save a city that doesn't want saving. And they whisper in the dark, "The wolves have come south. The wolves are eating us alive. The wolves won't leave until there's nothing left." They're right, but wrong about who the wolves are fighting for. The wolves aren't conquering King's Landing, they're dying for it. One village at a time, one stolen sack of grain at a time, one piece of their honor at a time. The southern winter has arrived, and it's colder than anything the North has ever known. The throne room is packed, not with celebration, with calculation. Every lord still in King's Landing sits in the galleries, every merchant rich enough to bribe his way in, every scribe and maester and lesser noble who wants to say they were here when history was written or burned. The Iron Throne sits empty. Ned refuses to sit there during the tribunal. This is not kingship, this is law, and law requires neutrality, even the pretense of it. He stands instead at the base of the throne steps, wearing gray and white, no crown, just Ned Stark presenting evidence to a realm that doesn't want to hear it. Lord Jon Royce, the senior lord present from the Vale, a man who knew Jon Arryn well, stands near a table stacked with books and ledgers, and parchments that smell like dust and truth. He will officiate this proceeding, not as a judge but as a witness to law. Barristan Selmy stands at the door in his white cloak, silent, watching, ready for the moment this turns from theater into riot. Ned's voice carries without shouting, "We are here to examine the legitimacy of Joffrey Baratheon's claim to the Iron Throne, not through politics, not through armies, through evidence, through law, through the truth that every man and woman in this room deserves to know." A murmur runs through the galleries. Anticipation, dread. Grand Maester Pycelle present the first evidence. Pycelle shuffles forward. His hands shake as he picks up a book bound in red leather. Old, heavy, pages brown with age. The Book of Lineages, he says. His voice cracks. Compiled by the maesters of the Citadel over 300 years. Every noble birth in Westeros recorded. Open it to House Baratheon, reading aloud names and dates, and the color of hair that followed House Baratheon for generations. Orys Baratheon, black-haired. Robar Baratheon, black-haired. Lionel Baratheon, black-haired. Every male child of House Baratheon for 97 generations, black hair, every single one. And Robert's children by his wife Cersei. Pycelle's voice drops to barely audible. Joffrey, golden-haired. Myrcella, golden-haired. Tommen, golden-haired. Bastards. Present them, the side door opens. Gendry walks in first, 17, bull strong, black hair falling over his eyes, wearing the simple clothes of a blacksmith, because that's what he is, was, until soldiers came to Fleabottom and pulled him from his forge and brought him here without explanation. He looks terrified. Behind him, 3 more of Robert's bastards, a girl from the Riverlands, a boy from the Stormlands, another from the Vale, all black-haired, all confused, all living proof. They stand in a line in front of the throne. 4 children who share one father and nothing else. Ned points to them. Robert's blood. Look at them. The Baratheon hair. The Baratheon build. The image of their father in every line of their faces. He gestures to a guard who brings forward a portrait. Joffrey at 12. Golden hair. Green eyes. Lannister to the bone. And this, The boy Tywin Lannister calls king. The contrast is devastating. Even the lords who came here ready to deny everything can see it. The difference between Robert's children and Cersei's children is the difference between night and day. One of the Lannister-aligned lords, a fat man from the Westerlands with gold rings on every finger, stands. Your Grace, with respect, hair color is not proof of illegitimacy. Kings have had blonde children before. Genetics are not law, but they are evidence, and when the evidence is consistent across 100 generations, it becomes something more than coincidence. Another lord stands, this one from the Reach, carefully neutral. King Robert signed the birth records for all 3 children. He acknowledged them as his. To declare them bastards now is to call Robert himself a liar or a fool, or a man who trusted his wife. That is speculation, Your Grace. Bring in the witness. An old woman enters, 60 years, gray hair, hands knotted with age. She wears the simple dress of a servant but walks with the dignity of someone who has delivered half the noble children in King's Landing. State your name. Ellen. I was a midwife in the Red Keep, served 3 queens during my years of service. Tell the court what you told me. When Prince Joffrey was born, I was there. The moment he came into the world, I saw his hair, pale gold, bright as sunshine. I said to the attending maester, he has his mother's coloring. The maester told me to be silent, told me to record the hair color as auburn in the records, not gold. Auburn, close enough to dark that no one would question it. The murmur in the galleries is louder now, shocked, angry. Why would he do that? I don't know, Your Grace. I was a midwife. I did as I was told. She looks at the assembled lords, but I know what I saw. That child's hair was Lannister gold from the first breath. Not auburn, not dark. Gold. Thank you. Ellen leaves. The throne room erupts in whispers. The Lannister-aligned maester, gray robes, Casterly rock sigil on his chain, stands abruptly. This woman is lying. She was dismissed from royal service 5 years ago. Her testimony is purchased. By whom? By you, Your Grace. A northern usurper desperate to legitimize his stolen crown. Ned doesn't rise to it. The records show she served the crown for 30 years. She spoke truth when it was dangerous to do so. That is not the act of a purchased liar. That is conjecture. It is testimony which you may dispute, but you cannot erase. The maester sits, fuming. Ned looks at the galleries, at the lords watching him with expressions that range from convinced to skeptical to openly hostile. I have presented the evidence, the book of lineages, Robert's legitimate bastards, the midwife's testimony, the falsified records. This is not politics, this is truth. Truth is not law, someone shouts from the back. No, Ned says, but law is built on truth, and when law ignores truth, it becomes tyranny. The throne room is silent for a moment, then the Lannister maester stands again. Where is the High Septon? This tribunal has no religious legitimacy, the faith has not sanctioned it. The High Septon was invited. He refused, because he knows this is theater. A foreign king attempting to destroy the rightful succession with purchased testimony and northern arrogance. The High Septon refused because Tywin Lannister rebuilt the Great Sept 20 years ago. Gold bought his loyalty then. It buys his absence now. That is slander against the faith itself. It is fact, and everyone in this room knows it. Sits. Lord Jon Royce steps forward, unfolds a parchment, based on the evidence presented, the historical record of House Baratheon, the testimony of witnesses, the physical evidence of Robert Baratheon's acknowledged children. This tribunal finds strong evidence of illegitimacy in the children born to Cersei Lannister and attributed to King Robert. The court recommends that Joffrey Baratheon's claim to the Iron Throne be considered invalid, pending further investigation. Recommend? The Lannister maester is on his feet again. This is not a verdict, this is political cowardice dressed as law. This is what the evidence supports, Ned says. Joffrey Baratheon's legitimacy is in question. Serious question that is now a matter of public record. A record no one will accept. You've proven nothing except that you're willing to destroy children to hold a throne you stole. Ned's voice goes cold. I'm willing to tell the truth even when the truth is inconvenient. That's more than Tywin Lannister has ever done. The session ends in chaos. Lords arguing, scribes writing frantically, the evidence officially recorded but the verdict useless. a legal statement that changes no one's allegiance. Barristan finds Ned afterward in the small council chamber. Ned is sitting at the table with the book of lineages open in front of him, just sitting, staring at names written by men who died before his grandfather was born. You won the argument, Your Grace. I know. But not the war. I know that too. Barristan sits. The lords who support you already believed you. The lords who oppose you won't be convinced by evidence. And the lords in the middle, the ones who matter, are too afraid of Tywin to commit. So the trial was pointless. No, you created a record, a document sealed and distributed. When this is over, when the wars are done, history will remember what you proved here today. History won't matter if we lose. Then we don't lose. Ned looks at him, at the old knight who has seen kingdoms rise and fall and still believes that honor means something. Thank you, Barristan. For what, Your Grace? For not lying to me, everyone else does. You just tell me the truth and let me decide what to do with it. Barristan nods, stands, leaves. Ned sits alone with the book of lineages, with the evidence that should have been enough and wasn't. 3 days later, Cersei's response arrives. A raven from Casterly Rock, not to Ned. To every lord in Westeros, the letter is short, brutal, effective. Varys reads it aloud to the small council with the tone of a man reading a death warrant. Lord Eddard Stark has held a false tribunal to slander the name of Prince Joffrey. He presents no evidence that would stand before any legitimate court. He relies on the testimony of a dismissed servant and the conjecture of northern loyalists. My late husband, King Robert, was proud of his children and never questioned their legitimacy. Lord Stark's desperation to justify his usurpation grows more obvious each day. Signed, Cersei Lannister, Queen Mother Protector of Prince Joffrey's claim. Varys sets it down. Short, direct, effective. She's learned well from her father. Ned picks up the letter, reads it, sets it down. She's good. She's her father's daughter, Your Grace. Tywin taught her well. So we present evidence. She presents doubt, and the realm chooses which one to believe based on which army they fear more. That has always been the way of things, Your Grace. Ned stands, walks to the window, looks out at King's Landing, at the city he's trying to rule with truth and law, at the city that doesn't care about any of it. The trial was supposed to end this, put the truth on record, make it impossible for Tywin to claim legitimacy. The impossible part was thinking that truth would matter more than gold. Ned closes his eyes, opens them, send copies of the tribunal findings to every lord in Westeros, every sept, every maester. I want the evidence distributed as widely as Cersei's lies. It won't change anything. I know, but it's what's right, and if I stop doing what's right, I become what I'm fighting against. Varys bows, leaves. Ned stands alone at the window as the sun sets. He won the trial, proved the incest, established the truth. And none of it matters, because truth, he's learning, is the weakest weapon in a kingdom built on lies. But it's the only weapon he knows how to use. So he'll keep using it, even if it kills him, especially if it kills him. Because that's what honor demands, and honor is all he has left. The armies arrive like a slow-closing fist. From the west, Tywin's Lannister forces, 20,000 men in crimson and gold. They camp along the Gold Road 3 miles out, close enough to be seen from the walls, far enough to be safe from sorties. Their banners fill the horizon like a red sunrise that never ends. From the south, Renly's host. What should have been 100,000 men marching under Rose and Stag. Instead, it's chaos, scattered formations, confused commanders, lords arguing over who leads now that Renly is dead. The news came 2 days ago. A rider from the Reach, nearly dead from exhaustion, with a story no one wanted to believe. Renly Baratheon murdered in his tent by a shadow with Stannis' face. Robb heard the report and looked at his father. A shadow? Melisandre, Varys said quietly. The Red Priestess, Stannis' witch, she births shadows that kill for him. It is known in Ashai. Now it is known here. The Tyrell forces, 70,000 men without a king, split. Some march home, some negotiate with Tywin. The rest camp south of the city, leaderless and dangerous. From the east, Stannis' fleet. Ships in Blackwater Bay, not the massive armada he commanded in the books, perhaps 30 vessels, enough to land troops and supplies, but not enough to take the city by sea alone. 3 armies, 3 directions, and Ned Stark in the middle with 20,000 Northerners and walls built for show. Sir Barristan stands on the ramparts of the eastern wall at dawn, Ned beside him, Robb beside Ned, looking out at Stannis' ships anchored in the bay. The walls won't hold, Barristan says. No preamble, no softening. They're decorative, built by kings who wanted to look strong, not be strong. Tywin will breach the western gate in 2 weeks, maybe less. Can we strengthen them? Not in time. Your Grace, King's Landing has never faced a real siege, not since Aegon burned it into submission 300 years ago. These walls were built to impress merchants and intimidate small folk, not to stop armies. Ned looks at the walls, at the stone that looks solid and isn't, at the gates that look imposing and won't hold. Then we don't fight on the walls, we fight in the city. House by house if we have to. Lannister cavalry is useless in alleys. Tyrell infantry doesn't know this city. We do. We've spent weeks mapping every street, every cellar, every bolt hole. We make them bleed for every yard. Barristan is quiet for a moment. That's not a battle plan, Your Grace. That's attrition. It's ugly. It's brutal. It turns the city into a slaughterhouse. I know that too. But if we fight on the walls, we lose in days. If we fight in the streets, we lose in weeks. And weeks might be enough for something to change, for Stannis and Tywin to turn on each other, for the Tyrells to go home, for a miracle. I'm betting it on time, and the hope that our enemies hate each other more than they hate us. Robb looks at his father, sees something he hasn't seen before. Not the honorable lord, not the good man, the commander, the one who makes choices that cost lives and carries the weight. What about the wildfire? Ned's jaw tightens. What about it? The stores under the city. Aerys had them prepared. Enough to burn King's Landing to ash. We could use it, trap Tywin's forces, lure them into kill zones, and ignite it. No, Father, no, I will not burn men alive. I will not turn this city into a pyre. We fight with steel and strategy, not with wildfire and mass murder, even if it means we lose. Even then. Barristan watches this exchange, says nothing, but his face shows approval, relief, the look of a man who has served kings who would have used the wildfire without hesitation. There's another problem, Robb says. Stannis. They all look at the fleet in the bay, at the ships that haven't moved, haven't attacked, just sit there, waiting. He's not landing, Ned says. No, he's watching, waiting to see if we and Tywin destroy each other. Then he'll come ashore and take what's left. That's what I would do, Barristan admits. Let the wolves and lions kill each other, claim the throne from their corpses. So we make it harder for him, Ned points at the harbor. Block key landing zones, scuttle merchant vessels in the shallows, drive sharpened piles into the bay floor where his boats would beach. Make him choose between a contested landing or sailing home. That buys days, Your Grace, not victory. Days are what we need. By nightfall, 3 merchant ships are positioned at strategic points in the harbor approaches. By dawn, work crews are driving iron-tipped stakes into the shallow waters where Stannis' boats would land. It's not enough. It's never enough. But it's something. The western wall falls on the 8th day of the siege. Lannister siege engines, 3 massive trebuchets dragged from Casterly Rock, pound the Gate of the Gods for 6 hours. Stone cracks, mortar crumbles. The gate, ancient oak banded with iron, splinters like kindling. Lannister heavy infantry pours through. They're met by northern pikemen in the courtyard beyond. Tight formation, unbreakable line. The kind of infantry that held the north against wildlings and worse for 8,000 years. The Lannisters crash against them like a wave against a cliff, and break. But there are more waves, more Lannisters, more men in crimson pushing through the shattered gate, climbing the rubble, flanking around the buildings. Robb's voice cuts through the chaos. Fall back, Wireless Street, reform at the intersection. The Northerners withdraw, not a rout, a fighting retreat. Step by step, bodies left behind, blood on cobblestones. They make the Lannisters pay for every yard. The battle moves into the city. Street fighting is not glorious. It's not the sweeping cavalry charges and shield walls of open battle. It's brutal, close-quarters murder in spaces too tight for formations. Lannister knights, men who trained their whole lives to fight on horseback, find themselves dismounted, packed into alleys 12 feet wide, facing northern infantry who know how to kill in tight spaces. A Lannister captain in gilded armor charges into the street of steel. His men follow. 20 knights in full plate, they make it 30 yards before the trap closes. Northerners emerge from doorways, cellars, second-story windows, crossbow bolts, thrown axes, boiling oil from a blacksmith's shop. The knights go down screaming, their armor baking them alive. The survivors retreat. The Northerners let them, they'll tell the others. Make the next advance slower, more cautious, more expensive. Robb fights beside his men. Sword in hand, no crown, no royal anything, just a commander in the muck. Barristan finds him in a burned-out tavern being used as a command post. The southern wall. Tyrell forces are probing. Not committed yet. They're waiting to see if Tywin takes the city himself. How many inside so far? 5,000 Lannisters, maybe 6. They've taken the western districts. Flea Bottom is contested. The Street of Silk is ours. For now. Robb studies the map, the city divided into colored zones. Red for Lannister, gray for Northern, black for no man's land where both sides are killing each other and no one's winning. Casualties? Heavy. 400 dead, twice that wounded. The Lannisters have lost more. Maybe 1,000, but they have more to lose. How long can we hold? Barristan doesn't lie. A week, maybe 2. Then we're fighting in the Red Keep itself. And then we're done. A runner bursts in. Young, terrified, northern accent thick. My lord, the small folk, they're fighting. Fighting who? Everyone. Lannister soldiers tried to loot a bakery in Cobbler Square. The small folk came out with clubs and knives, and they killed 3 knights, my lord. Pulled them off their horses and beat them to death. Robb and Barristan exchange looks. They're defending the city, Barristan says slowly, against the Lannisters. Why? And the small folk don't care about politics or crowns or who's right. They care about who's taking their food and who's protecting them. Robb makes a decision. Arm them. City Watch commanders, open the armories. Give the small folk spears, cudgels, anything they can use. Make them auxiliaries. Give them orders to defend their own streets. Your Grace, do it. If they're already fighting, we make them effective. And we give them a reason to fight for us, instead of against us. Lannister soldiers advancing through the market districts find themselves facing not just northern regulars, but armed small folk who know every alley, every hiding spot, every shop with a back exit. A Lannister knight in full armor chases a fleeing boy into a tannery. Doesn't see the 6 leather workers with hammers waiting behind the door. He doesn't come out. Another squad tries to secure a granary. The Bakers' Guild ambushes them with hot coals and boiling lard. 5 Lannisters burn. The rest flee. It's not an army, it's an insurgency, and the Lannisters have no answer for it. Tywin's forces slow, stop, pull back to secured zones. The siege becomes a stalemate. Days pass, the dead pile up, the streets stink of blood and shit and smoke. Northern soldiers and City Watch and armed small folk hold positions that shouldn't be holdable, bleed for them, die for them. And something changes. The small folk who called the Northerners wolves a month ago now fight beside them, share rations with them, tend their wounded in homes that were closed to them before. A Northern soldier, wounded, delirious, is carried into a sept by small folk who should hate him. The septons treat him, save him. When he wakes he asks why. Because you didn't loot us, the septon says. Because when the Lannisters came through our doors, you fought them off. That's all that matters. On the 10th day, Tywin pulls his forces back. Not a retreat, a regrouping. His men hold the western third of the city. Northern forces hold the center and east. The walls between them are corpse-paved and blood-soaked. Neither side can advance without losses they can't afford. Ned stands on the steps of the Red Keep looking at his city, at the smoke rising from a dozen fires, at the streets that will never be clean again. Barristan joins him. We held. Barely is enough. How many dead? Hours? 800? Maybe 1,000. The small folk? No one's counting. Thousands. Ned closes his eyes. I did this. I brought this war here. Tywin brought this war here. You're just the one defending against it. Tell that to the dead. 2 men who have fought and bled and won nothing except time. Your Grace, Barristan says quietly, the small folk are calling you the Wolf King, not as an insult, as a title, because you fought for them, because your men died beside theirs. I'm not their king. I'm the reason they're dying. You're the reason they're alive. If you'd opened the gates, Tywin would have sacked the city the way he sacked King's Landing during Robert's rebellion. Do you know what he did that day? His men killed thousands, raped, looted, murdered children. Ned knows, everyone knows. The sack of King's Landing is the darkest stain on Robert's rebellion. You held the city, Barristan continues. You fought in the streets beside the people you're meant to protect. That's kingship. Not the crown, not the throne. That. Ned doesn't answer. But he doesn't argue, because for the first time since he sat the Iron Throne, the people of King's Landing aren't calling him usurper. They're calling him theirs. And they're fighting to keep him, even if it kills them, even if it kills everyone. The siege isn't over, but they survived it. Barely and barely, Ned is learning is all kingship ever is. They bring Jaime Lannister to the Red Keep in chains. He's bleeding from a cut above his eye. His golden armor is dented, mud cakes streaked with blood that isn't all his. But he walks like a man who's won something, not lost. Head up, no fear, just that Lannister smirk that makes Ned want to hit him. Robb walks beside the prisoner, limping, a slash across his thigh bandaged hastily with strips of torn cloak. His sword is still in his hand, red to the hilt. The Dragon Pit ruins, that's where they fought. Jaime led a Lannister strike force, 50 knights, the best Tywin had, straight through the northern lines during the heaviest fighting, aiming for Robb, for the kill that would break northern morale and end this war in a single stroke. He nearly made it, nearly put his sword through Robb's throat before Robb's guard captain tackled him off his horse, before Great John Umber's axe took the head off Jaime's mount, before 6 northerners pinned him down and disarmed him while he fought like a trapped wolf. They drag him into the small council chamber, throw him into a chair, guard the door. Ned stands by the window, doesn't look at him. Not yet. Leave us, he says. Robb hesitates. Father leaves. The door closes, 2 men alone in a room with 20 years of judgment between them. Ned turns. Jaime looks at him, still smirking, still defiant. The Kingslayer, Ned says, "Come to kill another Stark. I came to end a war. Your son got in the way. My son nearly died. Nearly isn't dead. I'm better than that. If I'd wanted your son dead, Lord Stark, he would be dead." Ned crosses the room, stops in front of him, looks down at the man he judged from the moment he found him sitting on the Iron Throne with Aerys's blood still wet on his sword. "Why did you do it? Which time? I've done a lot of things you disapprove of, Stark." "Aerys, why did you kill him?" Jaime's smirk falters. "Just for a second. You never asked. I'm asking now, 20 years too late. Answer the question." Jaime leans back. The chains clink. He looks at Ned with something that might be anger or might be grief, or might be both. "You walked into the throne room and found me sitting in his chair. Blood everywhere, Aerys dead at my feet. And you looked at me like I was filth, like I'd betrayed everything sacred. Do you remember what you said?" Ned remembers. "I called you Kingslayer. You called me Oathbreaker. Traitor. You didn't ask why, didn't ask what happened. You just decided I was guilty and walked away, and I've been guilty in your eyes ever since. You killed the king you swore to protect. I killed a madman who was about to murder 500,000 people." The room goes silent. Ned stares at him. What? Wildfire? Caches hidden under every major building in King's Landing. The Great Sept, the Red Keep, the guild halls, Flea Bottom. Aerys had them planted years ago. Secret? Even Robert didn't know. When your rebel army was at the gates, Aerys gave the order. Burn them all. He said it over and over. Burn them all. He was going to turn this city into ash rather than let Robert take it. Jaime's voice is flat, factual, no drama, just truth. I was standing right there, wearing my white cloak, sworn to obey, sworn to protect, and I had a choice: follow my oath and let 500,000 people die, or break my oath and save them. You could have stopped him without killing him. Could I? He was the king. I was 19. If I'd tried to restrain him, the other King's Guard would have killed me. If I'd reported him to someone, he'd have given the order anyway. There was no time, no other way. So I drew my sword and I put it through his back. Ned sits down slowly, across from Jaime, looking at him like he's seeing him for the first time. The wildfire, it's real, still down there, under the city, waiting. Aerys's pyromancers are mostly dead, but the caches remain. Thousands of jars, enough to destroy King's Landing 10 times over, and you never told anyone. I told Tywin he had his people make the caches safe, sealed, guarded, but I didn't announce it, didn't proclaim myself a hero. Because what was the point? Robert won his throne. I was already Kingslayer, adding but I saved the city wouldn't change how people saw me. So I let them think what they wanted. Ned closes his eyes, opens them. I should have asked. Yes, you should have. The words sit between them, heavy, true. I judged you, Ned says, for 20 years. Called you Kingslayer like it was the worst thing a man could be. And I was wrong. Incomplete. I did break my oath. I did kill the man I was sworn to protect. You weren't wrong about that. You just didn't know why. And you didn't care enough to ask. I care now. Now I'm your prisoner. Now you need something from me. Convenient timing, Stark. Ned doesn't argue. Can't argue. The door opens. Robb enters with Barristan and Varys. They all stop when they see Ned and Jaime sitting across from each other like old friends instead of enemies. Your Grace, Barristan says carefully. We need to discuss what to do with the prisoner. Execute him, Robb says immediately. He led an attack on our forces. Tried to kill me. That's treason and attempted murder. He's a member of the Kingsguard, Barristan counters. Entitled to trial, even for treason. He forfeited that right when he drew steel against the king's heir. Varys speaks from the shadows. He's worth more alive than dead. Jaime Lannister is Tywin's son, his heir, his favorite. Send him back with conditions and you have leverage. Kill him and you have a corpse and Tywin's eternal hatred. Robb says yes, but we don't have his fear. A dead son is martyrdom. A living son held hostage. Or better, released with strings attached. That's weakness. That's negotiation. That's Tywin admitting he needs something from us. Ned stands, walks to the window, looks out at the city still smoking from 10 days of street fighting. There's something else, Barristan says. A herald from Stannis. He's at the gates, demanding entry, demanding surrender. Of course he is, Ned says. He's offering terms, Your Grace. Safe passage for you and your family back to Winterfell. Recognition as Lord Paramount of the North. All charges dropped, in exchange for your abdication and acknowledgement of his claim. Yes, and the Iron Throne, to its rightful heir as he sees it. Ned turns, looks at his son, at Barristan, at Varys, at Jaime still sitting in chains. What would you do? He asks Jaime. Jaime looks surprised. You're asking me. You're Tywin's son. You understand how this works. What would Tywin do? Jaime considers. He'd use me. Send me back to my father with terms so vicious Tywin would have to accept them or look weak. He'd demand gold, hostages, public acknowledgement that the incest accusations have merit. He'd squeeze every drop of advantage from having captured me. And he'd get most of it. Because Tywin loves 3 things: his legacy, his gold, and his children. In that order. Maybe. Ned nods slowly. Varys, draft terms. Cersei withdraws Lannister military support from Stannis immediately. In exchange, I guarantee her children's safety. Myrcella's betrothal can be renegotiated to a southern house of Cersei's choosing. Joffrey remains in exile at Casterly Rock, recognized as Tywin's ward, not executed for treason. Tommen the same. Your Grace, Robb says. You're letting them live. After everything, they're children, Robb. Cersei's children. Not monsters yet. Maybe never if they're away from her and Jaime. He looks at Jaime. No offense. I've met Joffrey. None taken. We end this war by making it more expensive for Tywin to fight than to negotiate. Jaime is the price. The lives of his grandchildren are the terms. He'll accept because refusing means losing everything. And Stannis? Barristan asks. Stannis loses Lannister gold, loses Lannister numbers, has to face us alone with his ships and his righteousness. He'll withdraw to Dragonstone, not defeated, but delayed. Ned looks at them all. We're not winning. We're surviving long enough for them to stop trying to kill us. That's all we can do. Varys bows. I'll draft the terms immediately. He leaves. Barristan stays, looking at Ned with an expression that might be approval or might be disappointment, or might be both. You're learning to play the game, Your Grace. I'm not playing anything. That is what everyone who plays it says at first. Barristan leaves. Robb stays, looks at his father, at the man who was pure honor 6 weeks ago and is something else now. Something more complicated. Is this right? Robb asks quietly, using Jaime, negotiating with Cersei, Releasing the man who tried to kill me. No, it's practical. Right and practical aren't the same thing. I'm learning that. What happened to you? I became king, and kings can't afford to be just good. They have to be effective. Even when effective means betraying everything they believe in. Ned walks over to Jaime, pulls a key from his belt, unlocks the chains. Jaime rubs his wrists, looks at Ned like he's insane. You're releasing me? You're going back to your father, with terms. You'll tell him what I'm offering. You'll tell him the alternative is watching his grandchildren executed as bastards and traitors. You'll tell him I have the city, I have the loyalty of the small folk who fought beside my men, and I have time. And time is what he doesn't have. He'll negotiate, but he won't stop hating you. I don't need him to like me. I need him to leave me alone long enough to rebuild what this war destroyed. Jaime stands. Stretches, winces from injuries still untreated. For what it's worth, Stark, you would have made a terrible king 20 years ago. You might make an adequate one now. You've learned to compromise. Same thing. Jaime walks to the door, stops, looks back. I meant what I said about Eris, about the choice. You would have made the same one. Oath or lives. You'd have chosen lives. That's why you're still alive and Eris isn't. I would have asked first. No, you wouldn't have. There wasn't time. That's the thing about honor, Stark. It only works when you have the luxury of time. When you don't, you just do what saves the most people and hope history forgives you. Ned stands alone with his son in the small council chamber, the room where he's made every impossible choice, where he's betrayed his honor piece by piece to keep a throne he never wanted. Did we do the right thing, Robb asks. No, we did the thing that keeps us alive. And maybe, if we're lucky, the thing that ends this war without more dead Northerners bleeding on southern streets. That's not what you taught me. I know, I taught you honor, duty, the right thing above all else. Ned looks at his son. I was wrong. Or not wrong, just incomplete. Honor matters, but survival matters more, because dead men can't rebuild kingdoms. And that's what we have to do when this is over. Rebuild. Robb nods slowly. I understand. I hope you don't. I hope you never have to make choices like this. But you're my heir, and one day this will be yours. So you need to see it. You need to know what it costs. What does it cost? Ned looks at his hands, at the blood he can't see but feels anyway. Every compromise, every betrayal of principle, every choice that kept him alive and killed the man he was. Everything, he says quietly. It costs everything. They stand together in the dying light, father and son, king and heir, two men learning that honor is expensive, and survival is paid for in pieces of the soul you'll never get back. Outside, Jaime Lannister rides through the gates of King's Landing, with Ned's terms in his saddlebag and the knowledge that Eddard Stark has learned the hardest lesson. Sometimes the right thing is the wrong thing, and sometimes winning means becoming what you fought against. And sometimes honor is just another word for the luxury of not having to choose. The war isn't over, but the price has been paid, and Ned Stark is learning it's a price that never stops coming due. The ceasefire holds because everyone is too exhausted to keep fighting. Cersei's response arrives 4 days after Jaime returns to Casterly Rock. A single raven, terms accepted, Lannister forces will withdraw from the Gold Road positions, no admission of guilt, no apology, just compliance dressed as pragmatism. Tywin's army breaks camp at dawn, 20,000 men in crimson and gold marching west, not defeated, withdrawing. There's a difference, and everyone knows it. The Tyrell forces, scattered and leaderless without Renly, begin their own negotiations. Mace Tyrell sends a herald to King's Landing with an offer wrapped in flowers and thorns. The Reach will recognize Ned's kingship if Willis Tyrell, Mace's eldest son, is named Master of Coin and given a seat on the small council. It's extortion dressed as diplomacy. Ned accepts. He needs the Reach's food more than he needs pride. And Willis Tyrell is, by all accounts, a decent man, bookish, thoughtful, nothing like his ambitious father. The war doesn't end, it pauses, into something that might become peace if no one disturbs it. If everyone pretends the pause is permanent, if they all agree to lie to themselves long enough for the lie to become truth. But Stannis doesn't lie. His letter arrives on the same day the last Lannister soldier leaves the Gold Road. 3 sentences. No preamble, no politeness. The ceasefire is not my ceasefire. My claim is not diminished. I am coming back with more ships. Ned reads it twice, sets it down. files it with all the other problems he'll deal with tomorrow, or next year, or never. Robb finds him in the Tower of the Hand 3 weeks after the siege ends. His father is sitting at a desk covered in ledgers and reports and petitions from lords who suddenly want to be heard now that the fighting has stopped. "The North is calling me home," Robb says without preamble. Ned looks up. "I know. The harvest needs bringing in. Winter is coming. Not the metaphor, the actual season. If we're not back before the first snows, we'll lose crops that keep people alive, families alive. They'll bleed for you. But they won't abandon their people to starve while we hold a southern city that tolerates us. The city doesn't hate us anymore. The city tolerates us. That's not the same thing." Ned sets down his quill, looks at his son, at the young man who marched 2,000 miles, fought in streets that weren't his, buried friends in southern soil, and learned that winning isn't always victory. "What do you want me to say? That we can go home, that you're coming with us?" "I can't." "Why not? Name a hand to rule in your place. Build a regency council. You've done what Robert asked. You've held the throne. You've survived. Now come home before this place destroys you. If I leave, it falls apart. The ceasefire becomes a war the moment I'm gone. Tywin sees weakness. Stannis sees opportunity. The Tyrells decide they backed the wrong Stark. Everything we fought for, everything we bled for, ends. So we stay forever? The North bleeds forever to hold a throne you never wanted. No, you go home. Take the army. I stay. Robb stares at him. Alone? With a garrison. Enough to hold the city, the rest go north. They've earned it. And the North needs them more than I do. You can't defend King's Landing with a garrison. I can survive with one. That's all I've been doing anyway. Surviving until the next crisis. Then the next. It doesn't end, Robb. This is what being king means. You don't fix it. You just hold it together and hope it doesn't collapse before someone else can. Robb sits down across from him. They're silent for a long moment. Father and son, both understanding something neither wants to say. "I failed you," Ned says quietly. "No, I did. I brought you south to fight a war that isn't yours. I made you do things you shouldn't have to do. Steal from farmers, fight in streets, learn that honor is a luxury. I taught you wrong, and then I made you unlearn it the hard way. You taught me to survive. That's not failure. It feels like it." They sit in the fading light. Outside, King's Landing goes about its evening, markets closing, taverns opening, small folk returning to homes that are still standing. A city that survived a siege and doesn't know what it is now. "When do you leave?" Ned asks. "A week, maybe less. The men are ready. They've been ready since the fighting stopped." "Tell them," Ned stops. Doesn't know what to say. "Thank you" feels insufficient. "You saved the kingdom" feels like a lie. "You suffered for nothing" feels too true. "Tell them I'm grateful. Tell them the North will remember. Tell them their king is proud of every single one of them." Robb nods, stands, stops at the door. "Are you going to be all right?" "No, but I'll survive." That's what Starks do. Robb leaves. Ned sits alone with his ledgers and his failures, and the crushing weight of a crown he still doesn't know how to wear. A week later he watches the Northern Army march through the gates. 18,000 men minus the 800 dead. Gray and white banners, direwolf standards, the sound of boots on stone that once felt like occupation and now feels like abandonment. The small folk come out to watch them leave. Not to celebrate, not to mourn, just to witness. A woman near the gate of the gods, the same woman who called them wolves when they arrived, calls out, "Safe roads, wolf lords." It's not love, but it's not hatred either. It's recognition, respect. The acknowledgement that these foreigners bled for a city that wasn't theirs and asked for nothing in return. Robb rides at the head of the column, turns in his saddle, looks back at his father standing on the steps of the Red Keep. They don't wave, don't speak, just look at each other across the distance. Then Robb rides through the gates, and the Northern Army follows, and Ned Stark is alone. Not alone, he has a court. Sir Barristan Selmy, Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. 4 knights in white cloaks, who are learning to serve a king who doesn't want their service but needs it anyway. Lord Wyman Manderly, Master of Coin, the wealthiest man in the North, spending his gold to keep a southern kingdom solvent. Willis Tyrell, newly arrived from Highgarden, quiet, scholarly, carrying the weight of the Reach's expectations and trying to turn them into policy. Varys. Always Varys, in shadows and councils and places Ned doesn't want to know about. A dozen southern lords who bet on Ned early and are now committed because walking away means admitting they were wrong. The City Watch. Reformed. Rebuilt. Still corrupt in places, but functional. Led by men who fought beside northerners and learned that loyalty means something. And the small folk. The bakers and tanners and smiths who armed themselves and defended their streets, and now look at the Red Keep and see a king who didn't abandon them. It's not much. It's barely anything. But it's what Ned has. That night he walks alone through the Red Keep, not to his chambers, not to the small council room, to the throne room. The doors are open, moonlight streams through the high windows. The Iron Throne sits in shadow, blades gleaming dully. Ned doesn't sit on it, hasn't sat on it in weeks except when ceremony demands. He stands in front of it, looking at the thing that has consumed every king who touched it. Aegon built it from the swords of his enemies. A monument to conquest, a reminder that power is violence made permanent. Robert sat here and drank and laughed and pretended it was easy. It killed him slowly. Wine and boar and the weight he never acknowledged. Aerys sat here and went mad, seeing traitors in every shadow, burning men alive, planning to burn a city because he couldn't bear to lose it. His father never sat here. Rickard Stark burned in this very city, murdered by a mad king who didn't care about justice or law, or anything except his own paranoia. Lyanna never came home, died in a tower in Dorne while Robert's rebellion raged, another victim of the Iron Throne's appetite. Ned closes his eyes. I should have stayed in the north. The thought comes unbidden, unwelcome. True, he could have refused. Let Robert die without the decree. Let Joffrey take the throne and the realm tear itself apart. Let someone else fight this war. But he didn't. He accepted, he came south, he sat the throne, and fought the wars and survived. And now he's trapped. Not by enemies, by duty, by the knowledge that if he leaves, everything collapses. The ceasefire becomes war. The fragile peace shatters. More dead, more burning, more cities torn apart. He's a prisoner of the thing he tried to save, the Wolf King, the Iron Wolf, the man who conquered nothing and holds everything by force of will and exhaustion. He opens his eyes, looks at the throne. I'm still here, he says to the empty room, to the ghosts, to himself. I'm still here, and I don't know how to leave. The throne doesn't answer. Thrones never do. Dawn comes cold. Ned stands at the window of the Tower of the Hand, hasn't slept, can't sleep, just watches the city wake up, smoke rising from cook fires, fishermen heading to the docks, guards changing watch. A city that survived. Barely, but survived. A wind blows from the north, wrong for the season, too cold, too sharp, and with it something Ned hasn't seen in King's Landing in all the months he's been here. Snow. The first flakes fall slowly, tentative, like they're not sure they belong this far south. They fall on the battlements, on the burned districts where Lannister and Northern soldiers killed each other street by street, on the places where Lannister banners were pulled down and haven't been replaced, because no one knows what banner flies here now. They fall on the Gate of the Gods where the Northern army left. They fall on the markets where small folk are setting up stalls and pretending life is normal. They fall on the Great Sept of Baelor, where the High Septon still refuses to acknowledge Ned's kingship. They fall on the Red Keep, on the Tower of the Hand, on Ned's face as he leans out the window and lets the cold touch him, lets the north reach south and remind him what he is, where he's from, what he's lost. Behind him, through the open doors of the tower, he can see the throne room, the Iron Throne sitting empty in the dawn light. The snow falls through those doors too, lands on the blades, on the steps on the seat where kings have sat and died and gone mad. The snow doesn't care who won the war, who holds the throne, who lived and who died and who's still fighting battles that will never end. The snow just falls, the way it always has, the way it always will. Ned watches it for a long time, watches the first snow of winter settle on a southern city that doesn't know what winter means, watches it cover the scars, the blood, the evidence of everything they fought for and lost and won and can't keep. He thinks of Winterfell, of Catelyn waiting for news that never says what she needs to hear, of his children scattered across a continent, of the North preparing for winter without its warden. He thinks of Robert dying in a bed and making Ned promise to fix what he'd broken. He thinks of the crown he never wanted and can't take off. He thinks of honor and duty and all the things he believed in before he learned that believing isn't enough. The snow falls harder now, not a storm, just winter's first breath. Early, wrong, inevitable. Somewhere in the city, a bell rings the hour. Dawn. A new day. Another day of surviving, of holding together what wants to break apart, of being king to a realm that doesn't want him and needs him, and will probably kill him eventually. But not today. Today he's alive. The city is standing, the wars are paused, the people are safe. Today is enough. It has to be. Ned Stark, first of his name, king of the Andals, the Rhoynar and the First Men, protector of the realm, the Wolf King, the Iron Wolf, the man who never wanted any of it, stands at the window and watches the snow fall on King's Landing. Winter has come south, and it doesn't care who sits the Iron Throne. It never has. It never will. The snow falls on the empty throne through the open doors, falls on the blades, on the seat, on the cold iron that has broken every king who tried to master it. The throne sits in silence, waiting, patient, eternal, knowing what Ned Stark is only beginning to understand. The crown doesn't make you king. The throne doesn't give you power. You become king when you accept that the weight will never lift, that the wars will never end, that every choice costs something you can't afford to pay. You become king when you stop trying to win and start trying to survive. And survival, Ned has learned, is all kingship ever is. The snow falls, the throne waits, and Ned Stark, Lord of Winterfell, Warden of the North, King of the Seven Kingdoms, watches the dawn break over a city he saved and can't fix and will probably die defending. But not today. Today he's still here, still standing, still king. And that for now is enough. The first snow of winter covers the Iron Throne, and the story pauses, not ends, pauses. Because winter is coming, and winter doesn't care about kings or thrones or wars or honor or anything men think matters. Winter just comes, and waits, and knows. The Iron Wolf's reign has begun, and he will hold it through blood and compromise and the slow erosion of everything he once believed until the realm is ready to stand without him, or until it buries him. Whichever comes first. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.